It's member-supported Hawaii Public Radio and All Things Considered. We are in our Atherton Performing Arts Studio. I'm Dave Lawrence, and a real pleasure today. We have a multiple Emmy Award winner, author, actor, stand-up comedian, producer. This guy's done a lot. One of Comedy Central's 100 greatest stand-up comedians of all time. Big part of the FX comedy series Baskets. Stars in films like Coming to America, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's had a lot of TV experience. Some of it would include being the host of Family Feud, creator of Life with Louie on Fox, just to name a few. He is through Saturday at the Blue Note. We're really lucky that he's here in our Atherton Performing Arts Studio with us. It's Louie Anderson on All Things Considered. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
What's your experience with Hawaii like?
I think I came here to the Royal Hawaiian in the late 80s or mid 80s. I'm not quite sure. To the Comedy Store. Okay. They had a Comedy Store, Hawaii, for a while at the Royal Hawaiian, the big pink hotel on the beach.
Is that Paulie's mom who has that?
Paulie's mom. And not only that, I think I was with Jim Carrey and Sam Kinison and Roseanne Barr and people like that. You know, it was I think there were 3 to 5 comics, and it was $15.
Wow. The deals that they used to have on stuff, huh?
Yeah. I think it was to get people in, and to do it. It was
Introduce it.
It was fun. It was really fun. It was a great experience coming to Hawaii. The beauty of Hawaii is you're going to relax whether you want to or not. Right.
Yeah, it's kind of overpowering. That's a great way of putting it. You can't fight it when you get on the plane.
And if you are fighting it, you're really the only one doing that.
Right. And you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah, you have.
Wasted a lot of money.
You'll be really frustrated.
You mentioned some funny folks that have been part of your very colorful life. I couldn't help but look at some of your social media in advance of this, and forgive me, but I was looking and I saw pictures of at least Conan O'Brien. It seemed to suggest that possibly he'd be here at the same time, or is that just the way I was reading it wrong?
I think that was just to get your attention that I was going to be here. I just did the show.
With him.
And
that might have been it. Okay.
And so I used that picture because I love him so much, and I said, I think I did it with some other people too.
Kevin Nealon.
And Fluffy and Kevin Nealon and Wesley Snipes. I just happened to get all those pictures in one week. And I said, I'm going to use these because, you can never find a good picture of just you.
Right.
So at least I can. I'm very, I'm picky about that.
I get that way too. That's funny you say that. The Temp's also in there, I see.
Yes. And then I ran into them at the airport. I've opened for them. So that was a really joy to see them at the airport, I opened for almost every single act in Las Vegas in the 80s and 90s.
So a lot of those music hybrids you were part of?
Yeah, I opened for Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers and Ray Charles and Glenn Campbell and Natalie Cole and the Pointer Sisters and Smokey Robinson, Ray Charles. I mean, I just opened for everybody because I had a clean act.
Right.
So I was the flavor of that time, and I had an agent who booked a lot of those people, so I got to open for them. It was great to meet them all.
That's advantageous, having the kind of work that can put you into that. Any good memories of Glenn? That we had Glenn on the show too in 2012.
I absolutely adored Glenn Campbell, and I don't think people knew. I think sometimes people write off people who are in country music, but this guy had an unbelievable voice. But not only that,
He
played that guitar like a rock star.
Yep.
I mean, he could really play that guitar.
And he's a real nice guy too.
Very sweet.
So your interactions were cool. You were opening, and he was singing.
Actually, he went on to begin the show.
Right.
And then I went on in the middle while they changed the set for Ray Charles, because Ray Charles had a country album at one time.
So they were double billing.
So they double billed those guys at Bally's, and I got to be the middle act. I think I got 7 minutes or 10 minutes. But I just sat every night on the side of the stage backstage.
And that was the best part.
Yeah. And Ray Charles cried every performance at some point when he was singing. Just tears were draping down.
Different songs or?
Mostly, I think I want to say it was Georgia. But I also want to say it was some other song. But, he just was so overwhelmed by what he was doing. He was so connected to it. His tears just flowed out.
Must be a lot of challenges when you think about doing gigs like that, where you've got to go on between these legendary, bookends of entertainment, and really different ones too. And you've got to do your bit and make it work in a short amount of time. And I think of this role of Christine on Baskets. I mean, talk about something that is a challenge. I love the quote you said about it. You said, quote, "It felt like it was divine intervention when I got the call to be on the show that somehow my mom from the great beyond was finally getting herself into show business where she truly belonged in the first place." Explain.
I agree. I think that my mom, I always thought she was a person of, when she walked in a room, people noticed her, and she commanded. She had a lot of charisma. She had 11 children, and she put up with my dad, who was an extremely abusive alcoholic. But she never, ever let us feel the brunt of that in a sense. She always had a smile. She always got up every morning and made us breakfast our whole lives. And I can still smell the oatmeal, the eggs, the toast and bacon. And I just think that I always thought to myself, this is a woman who really could have been in show business or anything. Could have been a politician or could have been led a company, but she led our family. And so I feel like I'm responsible for holding up that. And then to get a chance to play her is such a great homage. I just loved her. And so now in 2018, I'm going to play her again for the third season. And she would have been 106. She was born in 1912. And so, this is just like a dream come true.
Right.
I think I'm just a vehicle for this. I actually do a vessel, and I try to honor it. I try to make Louie Anderson, the person, disappear in there.
That is and it's got to be, it's a visual challenge too, because they have to really do you up to make that happen.
And people think it's my hair often, which is really funny, right? I go, yeah, sure. I just agree with them. I never argue with people. Hey, aren't you that one guy? I go, I sure am. Because people just say, those kind of things. And why dispel if it makes them happy?
Right. Because that's the idea.
Yeah, because, people really don't want to hear your opinion. They just want you to confirm that they're right, don't you think?
The goal of what you're doing, what feels, because it's so different everyone, you're playing music, you're a broadcaster, you're a painter, you get a good feeling when you see them laugh. It's just, is that really the idea? Is it more like you feel like your craft is developing or? Both,
but mostly I feel like I've relieved their pain.
It's a form of therapy.
Yeah. Well, I think I make people forget their troubles for an hour and a half. Or an hour or whatever I'm up there.
Is it harder with all the dark stuff happening? Like, what's your perspective? If you were to put your pulse on things, does it seem like things are kind of going off the rails, or is that just my imagination?
I just think it's secular, and I think this is the same feeling I had in the 60s and the early 70s. Russia was a problem then in the 60s. We had riots in the streets. We had trouble in politics. All those things were going on when I was growing up. And I think it's louder now because we have more forms of communication for people. We hear, where everything's a lot more audible because, we just got our stuff, we either got an interrupted with Walter Cronkite for a CBS report, or we had the 6:30 evening news. But, in the newspaper, those were the things. But there were lots of protests and riots and, all kinds of things going on in the 60s and 70s. And then people tend to think that it's more going on now.
Right.
I still find that, and I'm hopeful that this is a better place and there are more people trying to make it better than there are people trying to make it worse.
Well, it's a great parallel, something you point out. During a lot of dark times, some incredible art was made, a lot of great comedy, movies, music. You think of the period you're talking about during Vietnam, there were just so many bands almost as a reaction to it. But then I think about how that relates to your development. Henny Youngman plays a critical role. As we're talking about classic folks, it's 1981, a comedy competition. Explain how this dude runs into your life in such a big way.
He was one of the judges. There were 3 judges, and he bonded with me or thought I was great, and I just saw the tape of that. My friend who ran that festival is still in comedy, and he sent me the tape of my performance, and boy, I just have changed so much. There were so many things that were, I was more of a one-line comic back then, and I still love a great joke. But I think what happened was that he said, I came in third out of 3 people. They always say in my publicity that I won it, but I always say, I quit fighting with them. But I came in third. There was a guy who did song parodies, came in first, and a guy who juggled fire came in second. And when I accepted the speech, I said, I'm just glad there wasn't an accordion player who told jokes. And Henny thought that was good. And then I started writing for his grandson and him. His grandson was a big guy like me, so I wrote jokes for him and wrote for Henny.
Wow.
And we stayed friends up until his death.
That's powerful. And I could keep you for a long time, but there's another, before I let you go, there's a great thing that a lot of comedians kind of like that. It's a good parallel. You are taking this comedic thing into new generations and new paths. There were a lot of people that came before you. And like Henny, there's another cat who played a pivotal role. Your first late night TV was Carson.
Yeah.
I mean, and you think Carson, when I was a kid, that was, my mom and dad, every night when I said goodnight to them, they'd be watching that on TV. And there you are, 1984. Had to be, exciting at the time.
So exciting. First of all, I grew up as a poor kid in St. Paul. So I would watch The Tonight Show with my dad, who was a jazz musician with Hoagie Carmichael. And so he would let me stay up and watch the comedians. And because he loved Doc Severinsen, who was a trumpet player. My dad was a trumpet and cornet player. And so it was full circle for me, Here I am, this kid in the projects of St. Paul, watching The Tonight Show, watching these comedians. In 1984, I'm backstage, and I hear Johnny Carson say, here's a young guy from St. Paul, Minnesota, making his television debut. And here I am now in Hawaii. And I'm at the Blue Note, a jazz club that I don't know if my dad played at because, I think the Blue Note's been around for a long time. And my dad recently got an album. My dad was playing with Satchmo, and he was a great trumpet player. So I feel like a full circle here too. And I tell you, that Blue Note is one beautiful club.
Anything you want to reveal about what's in store, where you draw things from for what's going to be on stage?
Tonight, I'm going to do all my new material, and I'm going to do all my mom, dad, sister, brother stuff also. So I always do a whole chunk of stuff about my family. But tonight, I'm working on a new special, so I'm going to do all the material, see how it floats in Hawaii.
It's going to be at the Blue Note, and he is through Saturday. It's Louie Anderson here on member-supported Hawaii Public Radio, all things considered, in our Atherton Performing Arts Studio. Hope you had fun. I enjoyed this.
I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha, it's Louie Anderson. Hey, don't you even think of touching that dial. We're here with our good friend Dave Lawrence. Hi, Dave.